born an athlete, you'll die an athlete. It's in your DNA.
You're an athlete. Live like an athlete so that you can be successful in life.
You're an athlete. Live like it.
ANA, America needs athletes. Welcome to another episode of the Gym Closet. Welcome into the Gym Closet. We are here as usual with Zach.
What's up?
We have a new, well, not nearly new. He's been on before.
A minute. It's been a minute.
So we are joined by Jake today instead of Amber. Amber is, she said she has an important work.
Amber's working.
Yeah. What
Unlike
is that?
us,
Yeah.
apparently.
We don't do that around here.
Yeah, no. So she is going out of town to head to a girls' weekend this weekend, which she completely deserves. So I won't say anything about that. But
Watch your words over there, Tyler.
Yeah. But so she is not working on Friday, so has a bunch of stuff to make up, I guess, and get that done. So we appreciate her, but she's not going to be joining us today. So you are stuck with us three. What do we want to talk about today first? I think we have our last week's craving. We have a word of the week, and we have a couple questions. Let's start with a couple questions. So we have first off, you may notice, I don't know if anybody does, I'm wearing a belt. I haven't taken my belt off since lifting this morning because I kind of threw my back out, and so as I'm getting older, it wasn't even like a heavy weight related to like what I could do. So hitting 405, I had done it, just repped out a bunch of sets or a bunch of reps prior to that, 4 or 5 reps really easily, and I got a little overconfident, and I think the second rep of the next set I picked up at a weird angle. I didn't brace on the way up, and felt my
back.
spine compress,
shattering completely.
Yes. So that's not good. So we're gonna have to.
Not ideal.
And today's Wednesday, so we have volleyball tonight, which I'm going to have to just drink beer and have a little bit of muscle relaxers.
I'm sure we'll make it work.
I told Tyler he's finally living out his NFL dreams with beer and muscle relaxers.
Yeah,
exactly.
Medicate.
So,
I think we're going to Monterey beforehand this time.
Oh, that sounds.
I believe.
I'm okay with that.
Because so usually our game last week was 6:30. Game tonight is 7:30. So we're doing Monterey beforehand this time. So I mean, we'll see if that helps or hinders the performance.
Right. Well, I was also I'm gonna print. I was going to print our shirts. So our shirts came in for our jerseys, and so I'm gonna try to do those before if I can actually like bend over and do the printing side of it. So we'll try to do those as well. But so I for those who are watching on YouTube, I have my belt still on. Luckily I had a belt on, and that kind of gets us to our first question of the day that we were going to talk about. So we always are taking questions as coaches and as a podcast from our athletes about different topics or whatever. And I had 2 of them. One of them, somebody had just kind of a random hypothetical, which we're going to talk about today. But the second one is from a long time ago. So Brittany Michaels, I didn't have access to the Gym Closet podcast Instagram page for a long time because of my social media situation. And so months and months and months ago, this question was raised, and we were just getting to it now. So
is that why the Gym Closet just followed me on Instagram yesterday?
Yes, because I finally got it back.
Finally back in business, boys.
Yeah. And so I was looking at it, and I didn't even realize. I thought it had canceled the account when all my other accounts canceled.
Yeah.
So I was like,
I'm surprised now all linked up. Yeah.
And it was all linked up, right? So I thought it canceled with mine. It ended up not being canceled, but not giving me access to it. So I had to go through a whole bunch of hoops and do some stupid shit to get access to that account back. So I got access to the account back, and then I kind of did some updating and made it. I still have to update the I think it's the original bio. So we have Jordan Hildreth, myself, Zach Downs, and Shane on there, I think.
Nice.
From
I don't
5 years
Shane.
ago. Yeah,
I don't know most of those.
Yes. So that was 5 years ago. We're on year 5 of this podcast, and
Thank gosh.
So yeah, we do seasons, and we're in the 5th season,
I was gonna
which
say,
is year
'cause-
5. So
So yeah, in theory, that would be you figure 52 weeks in a year. So I mean, this would be what episode like 260.
right, if we hit
If-
every single week,
if it
yeah.
was five.
And we're on
That's
150,
actually-
we're on 150.
So I mean, over half.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Over half.
Yeah. So we're on episode 150. Welcome to 150. But the question was, what's your opinion on training with weightlifting belts? And so I decided to dress for the occasion and
Let's show you how to use it.
and talk about it. And we talked about it a little bit this morning. But one of the biggest things I think that a lot of like these old school trainers have, or the old school coaches in strength and conditioning, which is a bad opinion in my, but it's kind of holding on to that old, like you had said, if you don't wear it on the field, you don't wear it in the weight room, as referring to a belt, and that to me that doesn't make sense, because you also don't have a bar and
400
weights.
pounds on your back
Yeah,
or on
and
the floor.
weights on the field, but you do in the weight room, and there's a purpose for it. And so that's kind of the overall, I think the overarching answer is there is a purpose for it, and you can use it at the optimal time for the optimal reason. So one of the things that I've always had the opinion of is there's a threshold that you hit, no matter who you are, that goes from safety. You hit a certain weight that goes where you get more from the safety aspect of the belt and the mechanical advantage that the belt gives you as when it pertains to your safety than you would achieve from the stabilization core improvement that you would get without the belt. So I'm all about training with no belt to a certain threshold, and I think that's one of the things that you have to know as an individual athlete. Like mine, I always kind of just set my personal one at 315. Like anytime I'm doing anything above 315, whether I'm feeling good, whether I'm feeling shitty that day or whatever, I throw a belt on, because you had talked about a little bit of your like cue signaling and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, so I think another big thing, and it was really funny when you brought this question up in the first place, and it, like right on my Twitter timeline popped up. If you're going to use a belt, you need to know the how and whys of why you're using it. You can't
Right.
just use it to use it, because if you're not using it for its purpose and understand what it's doing, you're actually not getting the benefit out of it. And I think that's a big important thing, that just throwing that belt on your waist and just to throw it on there isn't going to do you anything unless you know what you're doing with it. So I think the biggest thing for it is it's a good tool to help you brace your core on a big compound lift, whether it be a deadlift or a back squat in particular. So you got to understand, like, for one, what that means, and then two, how that belt assists you in that process. It's basically just, anytime you're putting weight on your back or pulling it from the floor, as Tyler learned this morning, you got to create a lot of tightness through this area of your body, that core area. Otherwise, you can lead to injuries of all sorts. And I think a belt's just a really good external cue of something to press all those core, that pressure you want to create against, so you can actually like physically feel that.
Right.
Exactly. So.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes into what we had kind of ultimately said is there's a time and place for a belt, and there's a time and place that's optimal to train without a belt. So if you're training super light, like some people get into like, oh, a belt helps with my 200-pound squat. Okay, well then it should help also with my body weight squat. And when you're doing body weight movements, or even when you're doing light movements, you actually are going to strengthen your core without the belt's assistance to a certain point again, and then the safety mechanism and the outer cues that benefit that lift are going to kick in, and that's at a certain weight. But it could be at the bar for a novice or a normal person. Could be like myself, 315. Big power lifter whose 315 is nothing. If you're deadlifting 1,000 pounds, you probably are thinking about a belt at 500.
Yeah, I've always heard like a good rule of thumb is like 80 to 85% of your max strength is a good time to start thinking about throwing that belt on. So 80 to 85% is relative to your individual abilities. So for you, that's like the 315 mark. For me, that's the 250 mark, whatever it might be.
Right.
Just sort of that kind of areas where it's like, oh, at that point it becomes beneficial. And like you talked about, where your safety could be compromised if you don't use one of those to, assist that. So.
And I think I've proven that I'm getting old. So like my 315 might be, I think it's probably 60%, but I need to wear it because
there's a lot of factors that play into it.
At 400 today, I lost my form a little bit, and I lost that pressure and let my what I call breaking 45. So if you're going down in your squat, your shoulder or your deadlift, squat as well, but if your deadlift or your shoulder joint and your hip joint should never break 45 degrees where your butt goes up prior to your chest coming up, and that's going to be where you run into issues. But I just thought it was easy and ended up making that problem. So,
Nice.
And that mistake cost me, and I'll probably pay for it for the next 3 weeks, and have to rehab my back a little bit.
Super great.
Yeah.
One thing too that is a good point that Jake brought up too is knowing why you're using it and when you're using it. So like one of the things that luckily I don't see it here, but at like when I was like in college and stuff, lifting in a college weight room, one of the things that always would get me is these big guys coming in with their belt on, so they can throw around some big heavy curls and stuff like that, or wearing your belt in to do some like sick tricep push downs. Like that's not going to help.
Right.
That's just useless at that point. But
Yep.
so yeah, it's one of those things again where knowing the reasons why, not just thinking I'm gonna wear a big old belt in today because it's super cool.
Yeah.
Like
any lift that core stability is important, and if you don't have it,
Right.
compromise your safety.
right.
Oh, definitely.
So
Right.
and that primarily applies to your squats, your
Yeah, your big
deadlifts. You could probably argue
exactly.
a shoulder press from time to time, but it's limited
Maybe
to
a
those.
clean.
Yeah, a clean.
Any Olympic lift.
But anything where that core stability is paramount to your safety, your
exactly.
back health, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And you exceed weights that your core can't, handle on its own, is probably the time and the place to use that belt.
Yes, definitely. So, Brittany, hopefully we answered that question. Find that weight for you, and anytime you're going heavy, especially you, Brittany, because you're pushing some weight around at your maxes. So, the second question is a super hypothetical, and I think I talked to Jake about. Okay, so, and this might be one that we can put on a craving as well for anybody that would like to chime in and answer this question. You can drink one liquid
Okay.
for the rest of your life.
Oh boy.
That's not water,
Oh.
and you don't get to drink water on top of it, and that's the only liquid that you do get to drink for the rest of your life. What's that liquid?
Oh boy. Am I answering first?
I guess you and I have thought about.
Yeah,
we had a
we've talked
discussion
about it.
about.
I haven't
this.
thought about this at all because you guys have thought about this all day, so I haven't had any time to think.
So I guess we should lead off with
Yep.
this.
Yeah.
I think me personally, obviously, if I had to pick one liquid, it would be water, but that got
But you
X'd
can't pick
out
liquid.
because that's the easy choice.
Can't pick water.
My next thought was to go to my go-to energy drink, Bang.
Ooh,
We've had
that's a
that
good one.
discussion,
I
but
could-
Tyler brought
I
up a
could
good
talk about
point that it's like
Right.
you can only have one of those a day, and if you're psychotic like me, you can throw in a second from time to
And
time.
I feel like you're going to be very dehydrated.
So you're going to be incredibly dehydrated.
Thirsty.
So I think what I had to
and
settle
you
with.
wouldn't be able to. I guess, in my opinion, I wouldn't want to drink one past like 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because then you're not going to
Think about
So you
sitting
can
down
never
for
drink
think about
anything?
sitting down at supper time, just like with your supper at 8 o'clock at night, and you're just like casually like pour yourself a glass of Bang to
Right.
sip
Yeah.
on during supper.
So I think that for logistical reasons didn't pan out. But
Right.
I'd have to go with some sort of like sports drink, a Gatorade, a Powerade. I think I like Body Armor is my go-to, just something with some flavor.
Right.
But it's something you can drink literally any point in the day. Yes, it's going to have some. Anything you're going to drink that's not water is going to have some calories in
Yeah.
it, so we got to ignore that fact. But
I contemplated milk
Yep.
for a little bit, and
yeah.
and milk just did not seem good for like a pre-workout or like a drink that like, oh, I'm sweating and I'm thirsty
Yeah.
to quench my
your
thirst.
Right.
But
No.
but then I thought, okay, what about chocolate milk? Because chocolate milk, I mean, you get your protein from it. You can it tastes delicious.
I would consider
at
that
least
a thirst quencher.
Right, and
More than regular milk. Yeah.
more than regular milk. Yeah. So that's a finalist of mine. But I definitely think like a Gatorade Zero, it's getting relatively close to water. But that's what I would probably pick.
That's the closest thing you pick to water that's not actually water.
Right. Minus
Gatorade Zero.
like water with like Mio in it.
Right,
Yeah, which I
right.
still think-
Which is barely, I think, even more flavorful than a Gatorade,
That's
than
probably true,
a
yeah.
Gatorade Zero.
Yeah.
I would argue.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't.
But then what is it? Beer? Like
But
now you can never get drunk.
I think
again?
I would
That's-
go with
that's kinda my
I would
thing,
go
is
with
like-
Bang over beer.
Bang over beer. Yeah.
My initial thought is Busch Light, for
I mean, you
obvious
can't
reasons.
go wrong with that.
For obvious reasons, my initial thought, because how else am I going to play volleyball tonight if I can't drink a Busch Light?
Well, but what are you going to drink at
But-
6 a.m. on a Monday?
But that brings up that
A
point
Busch Light.
too. A Busch Light, apparently.
Yep.
But
It's a tough one.
is that? I think I would go with sweet tea.
That's a good one.
I'm a sweet tea fanatic. Like
Nice.
I drink it all the time. I freaking love it. Like we talked about last week, I don't drink pop anymore. I tried to cut out that sugar, but now I am right back
You just replace it
to
with
replacing it,
with that.
which is fine because sugar is just carbs.
Right.
So,
Yep.
That doesn't matter.
It's all
Doesn't
about
matter.
managing.
so yeah,
As
I
long
would go.
as you-
I'd go with
as long
sweet
as you
tea.
track them and know.
Yep,
you're
I'd
good.
go with sweet tea.
Sweet tea.
Specifically,
Okay. So
Raising Cane sweet tea. If I want to be extra specific.
okay, I haven't had that. I'll have to check that.
They have good lemonade. I know that.
Really?
I
Sweet
wouldn't
tea.
know. I would drink sweet tea.
I wouldn't know.
So that's going to be our craving coming up. So that's a good lead in into our last week's craving. But over this next week, we'll have Amber to talk about that question too. But we're gonna put on our social what you would rather your drink be, and hopefully we get some interesting answers with that.
I'm sure there's a lot of. I've never thought about that question before, and that
Right.
really does.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
It got brought up. I
I
can't
thought it was on
remember.
one of the podcasts you were listening to.
It might have been.
Other like. And they
That brings up
brought it
another interesting discussion of like what if you only eat one food the rest of your life.
Right.
Only
Maybe
food
that will be a subsequent.
that could be.
to bring
Tune in
one
in the
up at a later
future.
point.
Right.
If you wanna save that.
Yeah, so that'll be our craving coming up. But this craving holds a very personal spot for these two. We have you guys had the opportunity at home to
pick your favorite.
pick your favorite coach,
Exactly.
basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
based on.
But
preference of
basically, we
sports.
said, what would you rather watch on TV? Soccer or football? Or baseball? And so we have to get to the bottom of this. What to start, Zach, with a drum roll? What is the winner?
I can't get over that. You just said football.
Football.
First of all.
You
I
just said
love that.
football.
The Krave athletes hate me, and soccer won.
It's coming home.
Soccer won 21-19.
Ooh, that's close.
Super.
That's
so.
close. That's
I like to assume that someone accidentally hit soccer, and that it was reality a
20-20
20-20 split. I like to assume that someone accidentally hit.
That makes sense.
It's convenient because the screenshot that Amber sent to me, it just barely cuts off what Tyler voted for. So
What I did?
Yeah.
I didn't vote for that one.
It said Tyler Robinson voted. It says voted, watch, and then the next thing is just blank underneath it. It doesn't. So
Oh,
you did vote.
I didn't think I
It said right
voted.
there that you voted. Yeah.
Where?
The bottom one.
Oh, what did
Yeah.
I vote?
Pretty big.
You only have. It's only the two
That's a
options.
big,
so.
yeah. I'm thinking probably. I can't remember. I think I said soccer, to be honest
Wow.
with you,
Okay.
just because it's higher pace and this is just higher pace and moves more. But I do enjoy baseball. In person, I would enjoy baseball more, but I'd also enjoy both of them because I hate both of them. But as far as like watching it on TV,
Throws
I
out the
hate-
hate word.
I hate watching both of them on TV. I hate watching a lot of sports on TV.
I'm the opposite. I
And-
can watch about anything.
And then my comment though was American football being that's really the thing that I enjoy watching.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's because of, now there is some downtime, which I actually like the 6-7
Seconds
seconds
all out, I've heard
of
of.
all out, and then a break to eat some chips or drink a
If
beer.
you want to break in between things, then baseball is your
Right,
sport.
but
there.
then but that's the problem is
There's no
it's
all-out effort.
It's an entire game of suspended breaks instead of
awesome.
an all out, and
That's
then
what's
maybe
great
2
about
home
soccer
runs.
is
True.
there's no breaks. The ball's almost never out of play.
Yeah.
Right, and
The
that
clock
almost
never
makes
stops.
that almost makes it mundane though, because it's not boom 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 boom.
Do we want to do our comments, or do we
Yes,
want to
go
read?
ahead.
Do we want to read these?
Go ahead and
comments
do your
first, or-
comments first.
Our
I
comments
wanna
first.
hear your guys as
Um,
avid baseball fan and avid soccer
Yes,
fan.
exactly.
We can figure this out.
I don't know what baseball is just the best. That's my argument.
I
It's
was
awesome. It's fantastic. I will preface that though
I
with
was-
this year I have not watched as much baseball as I mean usually I'm watching like every single night. I'm a diehard Twins fan, and they suck this year. They are so terrible, and it's actually hard for me to even watch. They're so bad. And the thing with baseball too, like with football. Okay, so let me back it up here. If given the choice of, okay, Zach, you got any sport in the world, turn it on right now. It's your favorite team of any sport. I would probably choose football.
Okay.
Either Iowa football or the Vikings.
Vikings, okay.
Are my favorites. So I would choose probably a football game over a baseball game. And I think
To watch on
part of that too is because there's 16 football games in a year or 12 college games.
And I think that it plays
and
a huge
there's
role. Yeah.
162 baseball
Right.
games to
Yeah.
watch in a year. You know, so
Yeah.
like I'm like planning a day around my football game
And
to
a
watch.
million soccer games. How many
Yeah.
are there?
It depends on what you're watching.
Well,
There's
that's what I
leagues
mean,
all-
like,
there's leagues
yeah.
all over the world.
There's games like every
You
day.
got domestic here in the United States. My favorite's in England. That's the best in my opinion. But you can go Spain, Germany, Italy. They all got good leagues and good players.
Yeah.
And they all play like nonstop year round.
Yeah, they're all
Yeah,
playing.
right now we're
all
doing
the
like
time.
international and stuff.
Yeah.
So they play with like their own club.
See, I
teams.
will say, and this is probably my only thought, because I do hate watching both of them on TV. But when I think about if there's any game that I would like to watch, a FIFA
like World Cup.
World Cup is going to do more for me than the World Series,
Yeah,
like the
the
final.
World Cup's pretty. Yeah, the World Cup's pretty.
You know what I
cool.
mean?
I would
And
say-
I do like. So that's one thing too that I will also say is
I
I
will also-
love soccer.
I will
too.
also say I enjoy
I do.
baseball.
Yeah, I
From
do
my
love soccer,
perspective
so-
too. I'll watch any
So,
sport.
so what's your
Well,
soccer?
I haven't finished mine yet. Now,
Oh, sorry.
now I forgot where I was.
No,
I-
you had the solid point of
It's just the best.
the best.
Yeah,
that's,
it's
that's,
the best.
that's really.
Oh yeah, I know where I was. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
go
I
ahead.
was saying
Sorry.
that I will say that I think of any sport though, baseball is the hardest to watch when it's bad. When you're watching a bad team like the Twins, it's so hard to watch.
So,
Sit down
but
and
tell me
play.
this though: if you're really good defense, say the Twins can't bat,
they suck at everything.
right?
So-
But say that their defense is really good, and they have a couple aces that are going
yeah.
to like
Which they actually
Like,
do, yeah.
right,
so,
and
yeah.
so it's going to be a 0-0 game, and your ace is really good. Would that's more entertaining though than like?
That's where I think it depends. I think and that's where baseball's gone a very interesting direction, and I could ramble on for days on this.
we
but
should go on about baseball.
yeah, because baseball is they've changed so much stuff, and it's so analytical now, and they're trying to crack down on it even a little bit. But
Even with like the sticky tack shit,
the
and
sticky
stuff,
tack stuff, yeah. And so strikeout rates are skyrocketing, and home run rates are skyrocketing. So it's got to a point now
And they
where
actually
it's
doled the balls, didn't they?
yeah, they had to. Well, they juiced them for a couple years.
Right.
Then people caught on, and then they doled them back down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But how do you not? Sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, you're
you,
good.
But how do you not see more people are watching because of this home run race, and the balls
but I
are
think
juiced,
the thing they found
as
is
well
that
as
they really
the athletes are
weren't,
juiced.
though.
And
Yeah.
you don't think
I
there
think
were?
with like the
I watched, or I paid attention personally to that era of baseball.
the McGuire so
Oh yeah, when it was steroids,
Right.
running rampant. Yeah, that'd be cool.
1,000%.
I'd love it if
more
those guys were juicing
than
up. Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, give all those guys
I would say
steroids.
from my perspective on baseball is it's basically become home run or nothing.
Yeah,
Right. So
I
that
totally
virtually
agree.
means that unless someone's hitting a home run, they're striking out. So the
I
ball,
totally agree.
the ball's never in play. If you were to
That's
compare
true.
that to a low-scoring defensive soccer game, the ball's still in play. There's still
Right.
things happening all the time.
Even a 0-0
Even
soccer
a 0-0
game,
game,
there's
it
still-
could be very exciting. No team just scored because scoring in soccer is hard, but the ball's always in play. It
That's
could be
true.
incredibly boring and they just pass around and don't do anything. but the ball's always in play.
Zero-
A bad
zero to
baseball
zero, that's
game,
true.
the ball's never in.
Four
it's
people
two-
have touched the ball.
Yeah, it's the pitcher and the catcher only. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I would go. And I think like from my perspective, not that I don't enjoy watching baseball, but that all or nothing has kind of pushed me away from it.
Right.
Whereas at soccer, there's constantly something happening. And me, like having played soccer and you having played baseball, affects our opinions.
Makes a
So
difference.
Yeah.
understanding
And you
how
haven't
the
played football.
Yeah. I was saying
If
understanding
you know what
knowing
you're
the game
watching,
and understanding like this team's doing this and I understand why they're doing that tactic on the field versus this and how it works.
Yeah,
Makes it a little more
100%,
enjoyable than when you're watching and you're like have no idea what the hell's going
So
on.
do you ever watch baseball and you're like, whoa, look at that shift?
I hate the shit.
But at least you understand
But-
it.
Well, you understand it.
But I,
you know.
yeah, I
There's
do.
things
And
But that's so funny that could be like a thing that you
it's a
understand.
thing that
and all it is
everything, and this is what really, this is my thing too. I'm like a grumpy old man, but like I am so.
baseball today sucks.
It does. It does.
I would agree.
I am so old school about baseball, and I think that's because my coach was also very old school about baseball, and he like just ingrained like the old school mentality
Those are the
into me
values.
and us. Yeah, and it's like. And like just like you said, now it's all about hitting a home run, or if you hit a home run, you strike out.
Well, I like
all
the
right,
days of
So let's get it.
baseball where it was like small ball, guy gets on first, you
Yeah.
want him to second.
That's what I want to see.
You're worried about hitting a line drive to the outfield, not just a
You
home
want
run.
to go op.
You wanna get on
go
base,
oppo so
yeah.
that
Yeah.
you can get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see sacrifice flies.
sack fly. Yeah.
I want to see bunting.
bunting and just like doing
People
anything to
don't
score a
bunt
run.
anymore.
No one bunts anymore.
No.
These dang kids these days.
You
don't
might have
bunt
like one
anymore.
really
It's
fast guy that'll do it every now
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
because he knows he can throw out.
Yeah.
But you can't bunt anybody over if no one's on base.
Well, right.
Yeah,
Because
and that's the
everyone's
thing
going to
is-
hit a home run or strike
Like I
out.
bet solo home runs are an all-time high,
Oh,
not
they
only
are,
because
yeah.
home runs are high, but because there's
Yeah,
no one on
such a-
base.
Right.
I'm a crotchety old man.
So crotchety old man. What are some of the comments that we had that our athletes had talked about?
Yes, we got a few comments back. Good job, athletes. We had someone say football ... That was
That was
Tyler.
me.
We had one of my
I
very
feel
own.
like someone else said football too.
Someone else said NFL specifically,
okay.
so
Okay.
I can respect that.
Close enough.
One of my very own personal training clients betrayed me and said soccer is faster paced and has a higher risk factor, which I actually talked to her about it this morning, and she said that. And
Like concussion?
a direct quote was like, "You can see someone like snap their shin in soccer." And I
So
was like,
she's
so-
out for the injury.
Fairly morbid, but okay.
Yeah, so
I can
she's
respect
she's
that.
out for the injury,
Yeah.
the post game injury
Yeah. So,
replays.
I can respect it. It's like watching NASCAR fucking crash, which is
Right.
terrible, but that's what you did.
With a lot of
So
people.
it brings an exciting factor.
I want to see someone shatter their shin
Yeah.
everywhere.
That's one
Please
shattered
watch it.
pelvises.
Let's see. Someone said if I want to nap, I'll tune into baseball. Soccer is way more entertaining to me. Sarah, no, that's you, Sarah. Let's see.
I
Those are
feel
some
that way
fighting
about
words.
golf though.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Golf
yeah.
is-
and I love
golf
to,
is
I love
a
to go
great
golfing,
method.
but I hate to watch golf.
Have you turned in on like a major Sunday, like the Open this weekend? Like I said, I can watch any sport and enjoy
Yeah,
it.
and
I
I
watched the
enjoy
Open
golf,
this
but I
weekend.
enjoy relaxing to golf, and I feel like with golf, I don't miss out on anything if I took a nap for
Sleep
20
for 3
minutes.
hours.
Yeah.
I wake up, and I not only do I know the score right away, and everybody's
Yeah.
you can basically see the top whatever, but then you also know if anyone's hit a good shot in the last 20 minutes, they'll replay that
Right.
for the next
That's true.
30,
Forever.
40
That's
minutes.
for days.
So then you really don't miss anything. But yeah. continue.
All these comments are pretty offensive to me, actually. Someone
I
said,
love it.
someone said soccer involves more athleticism and doesn't require beer for it to be entertaining. So, I mean, hitting a baseball is the hardest thing in all of sports.
I
but
will
it's
agree
fine.
that the skill level, not that the skill level of soccer is low,
Athleticism.
but There's
has to be
very
higher.
different. They're just two very different sports.
Yeah.
It's hard to compare.
I would say
There's-
athleticism would have to be higher in soccer,
It
but I
depends
don't
on what
think
you define as
necessarily.
athleticism.
Well, and that's the thing.
That's a yeah.
Overall, general athleticism.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to be able to run fast, jump high, and
90
and
minutes
be
straight.
agile in order to be a really really good batter.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
That's fair. I'll
Have
allow
a
that.
ton of
So
strength and
total
power and a
overall
very good skill set.
athleticism,
Yeah.
I think leans soccer. Technical ability, I think, would lean baseball because hitting a 90 mile an hour is the hardest thing to do. I think in the history of sports, and it's shown that because what Hall of Fame you can be
I mean,
in
a
Hall
Hall
of Fame
of-
with
I mean,
1/3.
A good, yeah. I mean,
Every-
if you're
about 300.
if you're getting a hit 30% of the time,
Isn't that crazy?
you're
You're
a Hall of
you're
Famer.
crazy,
You know, if
yeah.
you're succeeding, I mean, you know, there's other things obviously involved. But last person said track and field they'd rather watch,
I don't know what
which I think that's interesting.
Okay, so
that's like an
the
indictment of
Olympics.
both
coming.
sports.
The Olympics.
The Olympics, okay, so like the 100-meter dash in the Olympics is one of the most exciting things you can possibly.
It's
watch, I
electrifying.
think, yeah. But like, I mean, I think like if you just scroll through, I'm scrolling through TV and I see like, you know, generic like college track and field meet on, I might watch it for a few minutes just to see what's going on. But like that's not going to be something that like.
I just
wow.
I can't really recall a time where I was able to watch track and field other than Summer Olympics.
The
Right.
Olympics.
Yeah.
Which Summer Olympics are fun because
They're-
it's Summer
yeah,
Olympics.
it's the best.
Right, and I mean, I
It's
think
the
it's
world,
just
but-
yeah.
Yeah, there's like the World Championships every year. I think they get televised, but it's not like
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
sitting at the edge of our seats tuning
Right.
to watch it. And
Right.
this is again nothing against track and
And
field.
same
I
thing,
think these are
like,
great. They are.
Same
Everyone's
thing
a great
about
athlete.
swimming. Like,
Yeah,
would you,
no, yeah,
ever,
just
would you
swimming.
I've never
ever
watched
tune
swimming
into
unless-
swimming
yeah.
unless it's in the Olympics? I don't
Yeah.
think so.
No,
Right,
You know,
I think there's something about the whole representing your country.
Oh,
Same thing with like
100%,
soccer at the World Cup.
Absolutely,
The
yeah.
amount of people that are like, I would never watch soccer a day in my life. The World Cup comes on, they see the United States play, and
Yeah.
they're like,
Right.
well, let's freaking go.
Yeah, I just love
Until-
America that much.
but they
I'll
haven't-
support America.
but they
in
have
any
to
sport.
they have to make the World Cup.
Yeah, we've
which
True.
has been a while now.
They're good now, though.
This is the last
Ish.
one, so
When's the next one? This next year?
next year in
It's
November.
opposite.
It's in November.
It's weird this
Yeah,
time
well, they're
around,
playing in the
'cause
Middle
usually
East,
it's 2 years
so-
opposite
Yeah, because
of the Olympics, right?
yeah, but the Olympics got pushed back.
Yeah,
a year,
Olympics were
Right.
supposed to be last year.
so it's
Yeah.
now
like
they
a
pushed
year
back to this year. Yeah.
separate.
So now it's only 1 year separate.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder if they'll change something.
I bet the Olympics will go back to whatever
I think
24.
So, yeah.
since
I think they said the
21.
Olympics are going to go back to.
They'll just have a
their
3-year
regular-
gap now,
Yeah.
so they can get back on track.
All right. Well, great craving. We're going to get into our liquid of choice next week. So jump on there, comment, and we'll have those up for you. But our word of the week is, and we have about 5 minutes. Okay. So our word of the week is patience this week, and I think that this definitely came to my mind with myself and being that I threw my back out. And, you have to have patience. And I'm going to have patience now in the next several weeks. So I wanted to remind myself to have patience as I'm recovering. But I think that patience is more, especially a broad term, just in general in life, that I feel like, and I'm very much guilty of this, is to always be pushing and looking to the next thing, and it's tough to have patience. And one of the things in the gym industry too, you know, where we have to have patience and really focus on the success of one gym before you span out to do a bunch of other stuff, right? And the patience that you might not make it in a small business in your first year, or you might not be paying the bills in year 2, or whatever the case might be. That's kind of some of the experiences that I've had. But I think it goes more of a micro level when it comes to training at Krave, talking about the patience of gaining muscle, talking about the patience of losing body fat, talking about the patience of like your physical goals. Take patience and take the process and loving the process and just having that patience throughout. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today is, having the action steps that we can take this week is identify some of those things that are going to take patience and learn to have that patience and continue to keep that top of mind that you need to have that patience. For me right now, it's going to be my back, because immediately, and Jake can attest to this, immediately I was like, shit, I wonder how I can decompress. I wonder how I can stretch. I wonder how I can do X, Y, and Z to get better like right now. Whereas I know that I need to heal for a couple of days before I can even bend over to stretch my hamstrings or my glutes or whatever, before I should probably decompress, that my spine doesn't have, back when it gets compression after a decompression drill, what that could do to an active injury versus the recovery and the rehab of it. So for me now, it's going to be patience for the next week and a half trying to get this better, but then also then for the next 6 weeks in a program that am I going to be deadlifting 500-600 pounds come 4 weeks from now? No. I'm going to have patience because I may never do that again. So I might, I have to build myself up again after an injury. And so that's something that patience, but what is something that you guys, whether it's an athlete that you've been working with, or Jake, you can go first because we'll have the noon starting here soon. But what is it, something that you've seen that you've had to remind someone or even yourself that patience is a virtue?
Well, I think a really good example, and this is not singling out anyone, but just in general, like when we work with our nutrition athletes, I think that's a really big word and I use it a lot, is patience, especially if it's someone that's starting out for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
It's a few weeks, maybe a month or two of maybe not knowing what you're doing, not seeing any results because you're still trying to figure out the process of how we do our nutrition here.
Right.
And then even when you figure it out, it's still a couple of weeks of your body trying to figure it out too. Your body's, I was gonna say, your body sucks at making anything happen fast. So
right.
I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest place I use that word a lot is with nutrition and coaching people. Hey, stay patient. If you stay patient, persistent, and consistent with what we're doing here, you'll make it.
I like
there you go. Came up with that on the fly.
PPC. It's
There
all
you
about
go.
PPC.
There you go.
Patience, persistence,
and consistency. So we'll trademark that one.
I was going to
slap
say,
that on the wall,
we have a couple words of the week next week.
There you go. But because there's been numerous times I've been working with someone and it's like, oh my gosh, 2 months in, I haven't seen any changes, but we can look back and we stuck to it 6 months later and it's like, oh my goodness, you don't even recognize yourself in the mirror because you stayed patient, you stayed persistent, consistent.
And that's the thing too with patience with that is you're creating habits during that time.
Yeah, you're not
even though you don't see
physical
you have to be patient.
or changes or anything
Yep.
like that. So that's kind of the biggest spot. I see that word, I use that word because it is important. You can't give up early. I think, in general, that want for instant gratification, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone wants it, but to know that things worth having, sorry to be cliche here, things worth having won't come easy. They will take time, and that's where patience comes in and staying committed to whatever you're doing.
Just knocked it out of the park, and he's got to get going.
I got to go coach, so thanks for having me on.
Thanks for jumping in. And Zach, talking about patience, what's some of the...
Well, Jake just said word for word exactly what I was going to say, so...
exactly what I was
going to say. But so, I mean...
Let me adjust this camera and go ahead and keep talking.
So yeah, I mean, even just to elaborate on that too, I think one of the big things with nutrition that I would kind of harp on with my athletes that I work with is, even going beyond like those first few weeks of figuring it out, because that definitely takes a lot of patience, taking 2, 3, 4 weeks to learn how to track the right way, learn how to hit those numbers when you are feeling like you know how to track right away. And then beyond that, like Jake said, letting your body adjust to hitting those numbers consistently before you even see any results at all.
Right.
But then even going, a step farther than that, one of the things that, again, I always harp on with people is our method of doing nutrition, which is tracking macros and getting to that proper macro range, is not the instant, overnight, lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks thing that people always want.
Right.
The problem with that, though, and people that are impatient is they get to that point, they're like, whether it's my wedding's in 2 weeks or we're going on vacation or whatever it may be, or maybe they're just feeling super, super motivated for a couple weeks, and that's awesome. But the problem with being impatient and doing it the wrong way is that it puts you in a worse position than even moving forward. So you go ahead and you drop those 10 pounds in 2 weeks. Then the problem is now all of a sudden you're eating less, your metabolism is now lower to a point where 2 months later, you're right back to your starting weight and you're eating less. Your metabolism is lower.
Right.
So now, because you're impatient and because you didn't wait and do things the right way, or what we consider a good way to do it, you're now at a point.
And you haven't created the habits that will continue long term.
So now it's 3 months later, you're at the same weight as you were, but you're eating less food because you can't metabolize anymore. So then what do? You eat even less.
Right.
Then you drop weight fast. Metabolism goes down, weight goes back up to where it was, and now you're eating even less again. So I mean, it's just this vicious cycle of quick fix, quick fix, quick fix. When in reality, if you do what we tell you to do and you stay patient, you can end up eating more food a lot of times, still losing weight. And then, so what I always tell people is, it's in 6 months, do you want to be at a point where you're eating way less food and you're fluctuating about the same weight as you are now, back and forth, 5 pounds up and down.
Right.
Or in 6 months, it sounds hard when you start, but if you're patient, you do it the right way, you can be down 15, 20 pounds, eating sometimes more food than you are now.
Right.
And consistently and still making progress.
Yep.
Rather than, everyone, if I came up and told someone, hey, you want to lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks? Yeah, everyone's going to say, yeah, I do. But that's the quick fix, the easy fix, and unfortunately the fix that sells a lot of times.
Right. And most of the time that's just going to be your water weight and carbs that you haven't eaten, so that you're depleted and weigh less that way too. So,
exactly.
Yeah, and I think, in anything, like Jacob touched on, anything worth a shit is worth patience, and so
100%,
just in talking about life in general, you don't, and I think not that you're not in this category as much as a lot of these younger kids that I've talked to, whether it's someone looking to open a business or something, or just employees, the speed at which they want to be on top is just you're not able to at 19, if you're an intro job and your first week you ask for a raise,
right?
Those type of things I see a lot with some of these younger kids, because it seems that the patience isn't there to grind a little bit, put in the work, and more importantly, not just grind to grind, but the most important part of that is the grind that you have to be patient and continue to work, maybe getting paid less than what you will eventually get paid, sticking with a job that that might be paying you less because of an upside later on. The big thing about that is the knowledge and the personal growth during that grind time, or during that where you're paying your dues, that experience and the knowledge and the self improvement that you make during that time, that's where the value lies, and that's why you have to be patient. A lot of kids I see jumping from job to job because they're not their first position isn't a manager of X, Y, or Z. They're not jumping into a manager position, or they're not higher on the ladder, and they want to be up on or they'll bitch about it after a month of being in a certain position that they haven't gotten a raise, or they haven't gotten a promotion, or they haven't done any of these things. And that's where you have to put in the work, you have to put in the grind in order to do things. When we opened the gym, we had one gym, and Amber and myself were coaching and cleaning the toilets and vacuuming and doing everything that is needed in that gym. That's the grind. But we had to be patient we couldn't just, we could have just hired, let's hire a manager, let's hire this, but then that wouldn't really have created what we wanted to create in pushing that work out to someone else too fast. You know what I mean? So it took us a lot of patience to have, we could have probably opened up multiple gyms, but there's that patience of, are things ready? Is the system ready? Do we need to do other things before we make that step? And that was the grind for us. And so I think that's one thing that we can keep in mind, is the patience is worth it if it's something that you really want. As small as, which is, it's big to a lot of people, weight loss, muscle gain, those different things physically, but also in life, being able to be patient if it's something that you're in a field that you love. And you're a great example as well, being patient to where you were just coaching very part-time. Yeah. And we've continued to build up not only coaching hours and coaching clients, but then also responsibilities and different things that have been associated with the management role and all
Yeah.
of that, and you keep working your way up. And if you you loved what you did, knowing that the fitness industry was where you wanted to be, but when you were working whatever 10 hours a week at the very, very beginning, you were like, well, this isn't the spot for me because whatever. And you went to another gym and probably got the same 20 hours, or worked the front desk for 10 hours and did coaching for 10 hours, whatever that case might be. If you don't stick with it and be patient, then you wouldn't see the things and be able to do the things that you're doing currently. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So you're
Absolutely.
a great example of someone that has kind of been patient through the system and grown as the business grows as well. And so kudos to you, one,
Nice,
but for being patient, but then also that's what everybody that's watching and listening. Sorry, I'm on a muscle relaxer right now, so my tongue may be kind of slurring my words. But that's one thing that we have to think about this week is being patient. And some action steps that we're going to take before we leave here is identify what is worth patience in your life. It might be think about like marriage, and we're both married. If you're married and if you don't have patience and work on things in that marriage, and you had your first fight and you were just like, well, it's not for us, you know what I mean? And you look into like, all right, divorce, like that shit takes patience, and you have to, because it's worth it, because you've identified that it's worth it. I hope you're not getting married if it isn't worth it to you, but that's the thing that you have to be patient about. And maybe that's what's in your life right now is, hey, I've been fighting with my wife after several years, and I need to work on patience with this relationship and start working on, doing things with that. Those different things can take patience as well. And so all of that, wherever you are in life, wherever you have, I think there's two things. Physically, what is it that your goals are? Let's work on patience and keeping patience top of mind with those. But then outside of the gym, what are your main goals? What is worth it to you right now? And how can you practice patience in that and continue to go there? So anything to add?
I don't have anything I can add to that now.
Anything. Okay, awesome. So thanks a lot for joining us. If you're watching us, hit subscribe right now. It's like in the middle, if I'm looking, I think I'm pointing to it right now. Hit that. That little button will subscribe you to the podcast. If you are listening to us, go to our YouTube, subscribe, hit subscribe and comment and all those type of things on our social media. That will help us get more information. And if you enjoyed this podcast, if you got anything out of it, all you have to do is share it, tell a friend. We don't make any money doing this, so we just want to get information out to all of our athletes and anybody listening. So if you did enjoy it, if you got something out of it, please share it with a friend, and they can hopefully get something out of it as well. So remember, you're an athlete, live like it.
Born an athlete, you'll die an athlete. It's in your DNA.
Live like an athlete so that you can be successful in life.
You're an athlete. Live like it.
ANA, America needs athletes.